What's up, YouTube? I'm Mike, and today I'm going to attempt to shoot part two. Look at me, my timer started, so I'm 30 minutes. I'm going to attempt to shoot part two of my what does it feel like to stand jury trial for 12, facing 12 years of your life. In part one, I discussed the events that preceded my arrest, and eventual incarceration in the hole on suicide watch. So if you have not watched that video, then you definitely do not want to miss it because it sets the stage for everything that I'm going to talk about now in part two, which I hope will cover the entire 7-month period leading up to my actual trial date. My family's cleaning and doing things in the other room, so if you hear noises, that's what that is. So, as I said, at the end of part one, I had just been transferred, thankfully, by a jailer who saved my life and got me moved into general population, where, holy fuck, like, jail's bad. Don't get me wrong, okay? It's definitively a place that you never want to be in life. But going from the hole on 23-hour-a-day lockdown, where if you want to take a shower, they lead you into a cage where they handcuff you to the top of the cage and spray you with water, going to general population feels like you've gone literally from hell to heaven. So in general population in Snohomish County, I can't remember if it was 50 or 100 guys in that unit. I want to say it was, I can't remember if it was 52-man cells. It doesn't really matter. Basically, it's kind of like a wedge. You've got two walls like this, and there's two tiers, two floors. So there's like, I don't remember, 15, 30, maybe it was, I don't know the number. There's a bunch of 2-man cells with doors that run along the walls, and then there's a day area where we would have game time. There's like 6 TVs in this area, and in Snohomish County is a jail that is what they call direct supervision. If you ever go to a county jail, trust me, you definitely want to be in a direct supervision county facility. Direct supervision means that there's a desk in the middle of the facility where there is a prison guard who can observe everything that's going on in the unit at all times, which leads to a much safer, cleaner, much better environment. I was held, unfortunately, for a couple of days in Dallas County, and that shit is fucking way worse. I'm not going to waste time on this video talking about that, maybe a different video. So when you get to general population, one of the things they tell you during intake and like when you get to general population, you meet the officer that is running what they call the pod, and then you meet one of the mod workers. So inside the pod, they have elected, basically, the cops have chosen 4 inmates that are they kind of run the pod. So they collect laundry, they pass out laundry, they mop and clean the floors, the tables, the bathrooms. They hand out, they take care of the new inmates when they come in, making sure that they know where their cell is, where to put their shit. They kind of basically give them the lay of the land of the particular housing unit that they're going to be in. I believe I was in G5 in Snohomish County. I think it was G5. It's irrelevant. So, one of the things they tell you is not to talk about your case with other inmates because other inmates are known to be snitches. So if you go into county and you have actually committed a crime and you start talking about it, then there is a not small chance that one of the inmates could get information from you, and they could use the information that you tell them to try to cut a deal to get a lighter sentence for whatever they are in there for. I didn't do shit, and I was honestly scared to fucking death when I walked into that unit. I had believed everything that you see on TV, basically, which is just that when you go to county jail, you're just going to be fighting constantly and getting raped and just like every terrible, horrible thing you can imagine that you say. I'm thinking like Shawshank Redemption is where I think I'm walking into. let me assure you that nothing can be further from the truth. It is substantially more tame than that, and we'll get to that later in this video. But basically, the second I walk into the unit, you know, like the guys will start kind of coming over and trying to check out the new guys and kind of find out what you're all about. And so I was approached by some guys, and like they're like, "Hey, bro, what's your name? Whatever." And I start telling them, and they're like, "What you in here for?" And I just start spilling off at the mouth, like immediately. I spent a week in the hole on 23-hour lockdown with a bunch of people who were screaming like fucking wild animals and pounding on the floors and the ceilings and the bed frames and everything. So like, I was just like trying to get my bearings at this point. And I just was looking for any kind of silver lining, like any piece of hope that somebody could give me, because I'm sitting on some fucking serious charges. And so I start talking to this one guy, I forget what his name was, young black guy. He was like one of the first guys that approached me. And we start talking about my case and my charges, and I'm telling him what actually happened, and he's kind of like reassuring me, you know, like everybody's kind of reassuring. They're like, "Oh man, you're good, man. Don't even fucking worry about it, man. If you didn't do anything, man, this is all gonna blow over. Don't even trip," you know. And I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, you know. What you in for?" And so you start meeting the people that you're gonna be living with, which if you're like a hood rat or if you're like a street person, this may be a big family reunion for you. And that's what it was for a lot of these guys. It was crazy. Like, guys would be just coming in to the unit. Every time they had a shift change, there'd be new inmates coming and going. And sometimes the door would open and like 3 guys would be like, "Hey, bro, what's going on, man? Haven't seen you in a while." And they're like all in there fucking partying and having this great time. And here I am, 2,211 miles from home. My family's all in Texas. I don't know any of these fucking people. I've only been in this state for 4 fucking months. I'm totally alone. And so I'm having to it's like your first day in high school in a new school. And you're like the weird kid. Nobody knows if they can trust you. Nobody's inviting you to fucking sit at their table. Nobody wants to let you in on the fucking dodgeball game. You know what I mean? Like, you're having to fucking make a name for yourself because you have no street cred. So one of the things that I feared going into this place was that the particular charges that I had, which was a bunch of domestic violence charges, were going to make me a target. You know, like I thought I was going to go into county and it's going to be like a bunch of fucking huge dudes, be like, "Oh, okay, motherfucker, you like to beat on women? We're going to show you what it's like to get your ass beat." Nothing could be further from the truth. Going to county on DV charges is like 80% of the guys in there on fucking DV charges. Like, you're just like one of the boys. The one thing you definitively do not want to go to county for is any crime that involves a child. And I saw firsthand what happens to those motherfuckers. Maybe I'll make a whole video about that, but that's gonna make this run way too long. So I get into the pod and they assign me to a cell. And the cell that I get assigned to right out the gate has this guy in it. And the second thing that I learned was that in Snohomish County, Washington, there are Native Americans. I had never in my life, being born and raised in Dallas, Texas, I never in my life met a Native American. I thought all the natives were gone. I had no fucking idea. Like, I know there's reservations like up in like Oklahoma and shit, and I always just thought like a native was just like, you know, like he like natives just were like part native, you know, like a quarter native or something. I didn't realize that there's like real Native American Indians still living and running their own little communities all over the country. I have had zero experience with this. Guys kept saying something about a native this or native that, and I'm like, "Who's native?" And they're like, "That guy over there." I'm like, "That guy's Mexican." They just look all Mexican to me. And they're like, "What? No, he's a Tulalip." And I'm like, "A fucking Tulalip? What is a Tulalip?" All these native tribes exist in Snohomish County or in Washington State. And so just so turns out that my celly, which is what they call your cellmate, your celly, happens to be a Native American. Now, I'm fucking telling you right now, if you met this guy on the street, and I asked you to bet me money whether this guy was Irish or Native, you would fucking bet your entire stack that this guy was Irish long before you would bet that he was Native. Like, there's fucking zero sign to me that this guy was Native, but whatever, bro. So, super cool guy, man. We get in the fucking, when you're in general population, you can be out of your cell substantially more. So there's like 3 intervals during the day that you can be out of your cell. It's like you come out, every time you eat, all meals are eaten out in the day room at tables. And then you have rec from like, I want to say like 8 to 10 in the morning. And then from like, I don't know, like 1 to 3 in the afternoon. And then from like 6 to 10 at night. That's the time that you're allowed to be out of your cell. I think that's pretty close. So, what is that? Like 8 hours a day, 8 hours a day maybe, whatever the math was. I don't even remember. That's when you can be out of your cell. And any of the other times you're on lockdown. So you're locked inside of a 2-man cell and you can just fucking sleep. There's a toilet in there, a sink in there. You could play cards, you could write letters, you could just hang out with your celly, you could do push-ups, you could sleep, you could read books, but you're inside the cell. So I get locked into this cell and you start chatting with this celly, you start talking, you compare notes, and a lot of these dudes, not supposed to, but they'll do what's called a paper check. So what they want to find out is, are you a pedophile? And if you're a pedophile, then you will be checked in, which means that you're going to be given 2 options. You could push the panic button and tell them that you don't feel safe and that you need to go to protective custody, or you can prepare to get the shit kicked out of you until the cop finds out and comes, drags your beat up ass out of the unit. 9 times out of 10, they push the fucking button and get out. And so when you get in the cell, depending on if the celly you're with is like a hardened criminal, they may do what's called a paper check, where they're going to ask to see your court papers. So everybody in county is given papers that detail their charges. So guy asks, like, what are you in for? We start talking about it. And he's like, oh shit, dude, like, that sounds fucking bad. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, dude. He was in on some little pissant charges. And so because he was Native, he wasn't even going to be going to court in Snohomish County. He was going to be transferred. He was just being held in county. He was going to be transferred to the Indian reservation where they would adjudicate his case. So everything's cool. This guy's got this wound. I think it was on his leg. I can't remember. I didn't really ask a bunch of questions, but he didn't seem like he was doing real good. And so he had some cards, and we were playing cards and just trying to pass the time, and I'm just trying to get acclimated. And then it's like they pop the doors open for rec. We come out in the evening, and I start like mingling again, talking to various different guys, fucking trying to like figure out the lay of the land. And, I start making some friends, which honestly was difficult because I had been like fucking super nerd. Like, I drank and I did drugs and stuff, but it was always I had never been around like people who grew up in the streets. I had never been around people who were career criminals, who had long rap sheets. Most of these guys that you're being housed in with county, they just come from a very different world than I came from. And I really was struggling to be able to connect with these guys on any level. I was feeling very alienated in the beginning, but I was so desperate, for somebody to give me some hope that I would pretty much talk to anybody. And so over the course of time, some different guys kind of started taking a liking to me, and they kind of started trying to like look out for me, for lack of a better word. Guys that were my age, not like some shit you hear in prison, like some daddy shit. We'll get to that later. But one of the guys was like, dude, you need to be careful in your cell because your fucking celly's sick. And I'm like, sick? Like, what do you mean he's sick? That dude's got fucking MRSA. I don't remember if you remember back in the day. Again, this was 2007. MRSA was a big deal for a while. It was like early pandemic kind of shit. MRSA stands for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, I believe. Basically, it is a kind of staph infection that is resistant to antibiotics, so it can be very hard to treat because typically antibiotics is what kills bacteria, but this particular bacteria is resistant to the antibiotics. And people up in Seattle were convinced that this was going to destroy the fucking country at the time. And so this guy had this infected wound that all the guys in the unit were like whispering about, saying that he had MRSA. And it was known to be highly contagious and very dangerous. And everybody was like warning me, like, dude, don't go in that cell. You're going to get that shit and you're going to die. So it's like, fuck, dude. I just got out of the hole. I get put into this cell and they're like, you're not touching any of his stuff, are you? And I'm like, well, like, we've been playing cards. And they're like, was he touching that wound? Is he touching the cards? Did you touch the cards that he cut? Did he touch? So now I'm having a fucking panic attack. I'm like checking my skin to make sure I don't have any open wounds. Like, starting to fucking panic. I'm gonna get MRSA. I'm gonna fucking die. Like, oh my God, I got a kid at home. Surely I'm gonna work out all this out with my wife. There's no way she's really gonna go through with this. Like, I have a family, I have a career. I cannot be getting fucking MRSA and dying in county jail. Like, this is fucking horrific. So I'm up like all night long. I cannot fucking sleep. Next morning, they let us out for fucking rec. I go straight to the female cop and I lose my shit. I'm like, look, ma'am, I don't mean to cause you any problems, but I'm not going to be here very long. I have a wife and kids at home, and everybody's telling me my celly has MRSA, and I am scared to death of this shit. You got to get me the fuck out of this cell. I got to go home to my people. I cannot be dying in this filthy fucking ass jail. And she was scared of it too. And she knew exactly what I was talking about, but you're not really supposed to be making moves like that. But I convinced her that, like, that this was an unsafe situation. And eventually she agreed, and she moved me into a different cell with this younger kind of Asian guy. And we immediately made friends. So it's like, okay, whew, fucking disaster avoided. I didn't get in trouble for snitching, because that's like a big deal. Everybody in the unit was like scared of this guy. So apparently that kind of like technically snitching was not really snitching, because they all wanted this guy out of there. And so they moved me into another cell, and then eventually they did roll him up and send him to a fucking medical wing to treat whatever this fucking wound was that he had. And let me get a drink real quick. So by this time, I've been in county for a little over a week, and my dad has been on the background looking for me an attorney. And so, I guess it hadn't even been, yeah. And so, my attorney comes and meets me, and, or he doesn't come, but you have like a telephone, like a video chat visit inside the unit. And, super sharp guy. And he basically tells me, look, I'm not going to put this lightly. You are in a lot of fucking trouble. And this is very, very serious charges that have been filed against you. I need you to understand that. And he said, but the good news is that when you were arrested, you were massively overcharged on this crime. And he said, so I predict that they are going to drop the assault one with a deadly weapon. And I'm like, oh, thank God. And he's like, well, hold up. They're going to change your assault 1 with a deadly weapon to assault 2 with a deadly weapon. And so what I'm like, and he's like, this is still very, very serious. You're looking at likely 2 counts of assault 2 with a deadly weapon, harassment with a deadly weapon, unlawful imprisonment with a deadly weapon, kidnapping with a deadly weapon. There was like a whole laundry list. And I'm like, what the fuck is this kidnapping? How can I be charged with kidnapping? So this is when I find out how the law in the state of Washington, and I think this is true of other states. Somebody else in the comments can chime in. So let's say you and your old lady are having a fight. And the fight breaks out in the bedroom. And during the fight, you grab her by her shoulders, for example, and you drag her, move her, push her, do anything to force her to go into a different room of the house. So let's say you get in a fight with your old lady and you shove her and she stumbles from the bedroom into the bathroom. That's kidnapping. In the state of Washington, if you move a person from one location, one room in their house to another against their will, that is called kidnapping. And so the other charge that I didn't understand was the unlawful imprisonment charge. Because when you hear that, what it sounded to me like was that I took somebody hostage. And I'm thinking, I didn't take anybody. You know, what the fuck is this? So my lawyer explains, and I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the video, that unlawful imprisonment just means that if you try to make her, if the fight breaks out in the bedroom and you refuse to let her leave the bedroom to go to any other house, any other room in the house, then you have unlawfully imprisoned her in the bedroom. If you try to prevent her from leaving the house, for example, like I later admitted to doing, if you stand in the doorway and you don't let her leave the house, you have unlawfully imprisoned her in the house. So when these fuckhead cops, and I'm not saying all cops are bad, let me understand, I back the blue, I support my bros in blue, I have a lot of friends that are cops. Not everybody is a bad cop, let's not fucking go bashing on the police here. But there is a conflict of interest in our criminal justice system whereby the best way for prosecutors and police officers to advance their careers is by collaring felons, basically. When a police officer busts a felon and gets this guy and charges this guy with a crime, and then the prosecutors go on and they convict him and they send him to prison, this helps their career. So my camera's getting ready to die. I thought I would be able to get away with the first clip of this video. So I'm gonna pause right here and then I'll come back and we'll explain to you the rest of these charges and what they really mean. Okay, so I'm back. So he's explained to me now that I've got a kidnapping charge so here's the whole list of charges. Assault 2 with a deadly weapon, assault 2 with a deadly weapon, assault 2, strangulation, unlawful imprisonment with a deadly weapon, harassment with a deadly weapon, kidnapping with a deadly weapon. 6 charges. These are the charges that they have now filed against me. So there's the charges that the cops reported that they mentioned the night of the event. And then they have 72 hours to formally charge you. And when they formally charged me, they dropped it to 2 counts of assault with a deadly weapon, unlawful imprisonment with a deadly weapon, harassment with a deadly weapon, kidnapping with a deadly weapon, and assault 2, strangulation. So of course, again, I am reeling because I can't understand any of these things. So now he's explained how she says that I kidnapped her because I moved her from the bedroom and she claimed that I pushed her into the bathroom. So that was kidnapping. The unlawful imprisonment was holding her inside the house. The assault 2 with a deadly weapon was because I had committed because she claimed that I pointed the handgun at her. I don't even remember how they got to the second assault 2, and spoiler alert, they ended up having to drop that charge completely because it was totally trumped up. Harassment with a deadly weapon is if you threaten to kill someone. So imagine this, okay? This is how easily your life could get fucked up in very short order. You and your wife are having a fight, and you're having a fight in your bedroom, and you get really angry and go, and you say something like, if you don't stop this, I'm gonna fucking kill you, bitch. Harassment, okay? And then she goes, fuck you, I'm leaving. And you go, nope, you're fucking staying here and you're talking to me, and you stand in the bedroom door. Unlawful imprisonment. And she starts grabbing you and pushing on you, and you go, fine, you wanna leave? Here, I'll fucking, and then you push her physically out of the bedroom into another room in the house. Kidnapping. And if there was any physical violence during this situation, then you could have multiple levels of assault, all the way from what's called a misdemeanor assault, which is called assault by contact. So if you touch her, if you spit on her, if you make contact with her body in any way that she does not want you to have, you touch her arm, you slap her at any contact at all that is against her will, even though she's your wife, because you're now fighting, is assault by contact. That's a misdemeanor assault. And then depending on the level of contact, it goes up the ranks. So you could have a class 3 felony assault, a class 2, or a class 1. So a class 3 felony carries a penalty of up to 5 years. A class 2 carries a penalty of up to 10 years, and a class 1 carries a penalty of up to 20 years to life, depending on the particular charge. So currently, my attorney has just told me that I'm still facing I'm still facing 20 years for the assault 2 charges, but because they put weapons enhancements on them, that each of those charges would get an extra 5 years that would run consecutive. No, I think it does run concurrent. I can't remember. So there's 2 kinds of penalties. Your charges can run concurrently. So let's say you get 10 years for 3 different crimes. You serve 10 year. You just serve one 10-year period, and that covers each of the individual crimes. If they set them to run consecutively, then you would serve 10 years on one crime, and then you would serve 10 years on another crime, and then 10 years on another crime. So you get 30 years. I think the weapons enhancement did run concurrently, but it's day for day. So the other thing that you have to understand in the criminal justice system is the whatever sentence you get is not what you get. So you can get sentenced to 10 years and actually only do like 2.5 because you get good time. So a 10-year sentence, depending on whether it was violent or non-violent, might actually get 50% good time. So you'd only do 5 on 10. But then there's certain circumstances where you might only have to do half of that time because you went into a drug program. So you could get sentenced to 10 years and actually only serve 2.5. It's very, very convoluted and confusing, which is what made the weapons enhancement so bad. Because the weapons enhancement do not qualify for good time. So if I had caught a 5-year weapon enhancement on any one of those charges, I would have done every bit of those 5 years before I could start accruing good time for the remainder of the charges themselves. So believe it or not, for a first-time felon, a second-degree assault 2, which is a serious violent felony, carries a maximum sentence of 9 months. 3 to 9 months is the actual sentencing guideline for a first-time offender with a second-degree assault, felony assault, serious violent crime. You're only actually going to do 3 to 9 months. But if they put a weapon enhancement on it, you're going to do 24 months because the weapons enhancement, actually I think it was a 5-year enhancement on a class on a class 2. So you would do 5 years of time before you even get to that 3 to 9 months. So you could catch a 9-month charge and do 5 years of jail time, which is effectively what happened to me. So my first meeting with my attorney, and now I am like literally just having panic attacks because again, so I'm looking, there's just this laundry list of charges. And when you get hit with all of this bad news, for me at least, I just start assuming the worst. Oh shit, I forgot to start my clock. I have no idea how long this video is going. For me, I'm a pessimist. So I immediately start assuming the worst. So when he tells me you're facing 25 years, I just assume I'm going to prison for 25 years. Like at this stage of the game, I have not started preparing my defense yet. I've not started thinking to myself, okay, right now you've just been charged with a crime. Thank God, the one good thing about our criminal justice system is that being charged with a crime doesn't mean anything. They could charge you with whatever they want. They come in here right now and charge me with 4,000 crimes. The question is, can they convict me on 4,000 crimes? And the conviction is all that matters, which is why you do not take plea bargains. Because when you plead your case out, you lose the ability to take advantage of so many legal loopholes that could keep you from going to prison. And so, but at this point in the game, I'm not thinking clearly. I am terrified. I am scared shitless. And I am thinking I'm going to go to prison for 20 fucking years. And I mean, I'm just trying not to off myself. So after the meeting with my attorney, I've been trying to keep in contact with my people back at home to give me some kind of sense of sanity. But when you call home from a jail phone, it's a collect call. And when you're calling, in 2007, when you're calling from Seattle, Washington, Dallas, Texas, those calls are like $3 a minute. So a 20-minute call, man, I mean, this is a lot of fucking money. And so while your parents are over here putting hundreds of dollars on your phone card so that you can talk to them and try to stay sane and try to start preparing your defense and try to get a grip, I mean, they're on the verge of mortgaging their house because the phone bills are just adding up and adding up and adding up. That's before you even get to the fact that they have now agreed to give me my Xanax, but they're charging me like $150 or $300 a month for what cost me $15 on the street. So yeah, I'm getting my pills, but somebody on the outside has to be paying for all this. So you've got the cost of phone calls, you've got the cost of any medicines that you're taking, and then the food in there is horrific. It shouldn't even be fed to fucking pigs. It's not even fit to be pig slop. And so if you don't want to die of starvation, then you can have your people put money on your books, is what's called, and you can order Commissary, which is like coffee, candy, snacks, cosmetic things, toothbrushes, toothpaste, deodorant. In county, the list of things is very small, but for me with a serious sugar tooth, like I'm used to drinking 2 liters of Dr. Pepper a day. All of a sudden I'm in fucking county and there's 0 sugar in my diet. So like I'm buying pouch after pouch of fucking Kool-Aid so I can keep the sugar flowing, not have to deal with my sugar crashes. So they're putting about $75 a week on my books so that I can have Commissary. The phone calls are out of control. All of this money is piling up on top of the fact that my dad has hired a fucking big ballin' ass fucking attorney. So the attorney's fees for the first, it cost my dad $10,000, I think, to retain this guy. I think all told, he ended up paying $25,000 or more for the services to go to trial and everything. I can't remember. I'd have to ask him exactly. It was in excess of $25,000 is what my legal fees were. So you tack that on to the phone calls, the meds, and the books. My family at home is fucking suffering over a bunch of trumped up bullshit that I now have to figure out a way to fight and prove my innocence on. And so the process that you go through, especially when you're being held with no bail hold, is that you're having to fight all of this on the inside. No bail holds are very uncommon. Like, typically everybody gets a bail. Michael Jackson was out on bail. Fucking O.J. Simpson, I think, was out on bail. But not me. I was trinity fucking literally #1. They thought that they had caught apparently the most dangerous man who ever walked the face of the earth, and they held me on a no bail hold. So everything that I'm trying to do, I'm having to do at, $3 a minute on the phone, and I have no access to the internet, to research. I have nothing. So at this time, my dad has now gotten into communication with my wife, who is claiming that this is all a big misunderstanding and that she does not want me to go to prison. And so on top of everything that he has spent his hard-earned money on, as far as legal fees and everything that I just detailed, he is now paying to have movers come and pack up our condo and ship her car and ship all of our belongings back to Dallas, where she is going to move in with him and stay with my dad and my stepmom while we get all this worked out, because she's assured him that this is a big misunderstanding. So right now I'm feeling pretty good, because I'm like, okay, you know, she got really angry at me. She was hammered drunk. She made a bunch of allegations that are not true. And this is all going to get worked out eventually. But in the meantime, you have all these court dates that are coming up. And so you go in and you get arraigned on these charges, which feels terrible. But the interesting thing was, so you get arraigned on these charges. The first time she went to court, however, she was not playing ball. So when they tried to get me, the first court case that I had was a bail reduction hearing so that I could get bail, and she showed up to that court hearing with the prosecutor and told him a bunch of things, and the prosecutor told the judge that I had told her that if she ever had me arrested for any crime, that I would get out and kill her. And that was one of the major contributing factors to them holding me on a no bail hold, was that she testified in front of the judge, this was like 2 or 3 days after my arrest, that she thought that she was afraid for her life because I had threatened to get out and kill her. And then all of a sudden, supposedly everything's changed, and now she doesn't want me to go to jail, and she's moving in with my dad. So like, I'm not really trusting any of this at this point, because one minute you're calling the cops, you're calling 911, and you're telling them all this shit that I didn't do. The next minute you're telling them that I'm such a dangerous person, I shouldn't be allowed out. And then the next thing I know, you're moving in with my dad and you're sending me books with little love letters. Like they literally sent me books, and she had written in one of the books something like, I love you, we're gonna get through this, please be strong. Okay? So it's just a total mind fuck, because on the one hand, you're trying to be hopeful that this is all a bad dream. And on the other hand, your life is literally falling apart every single day. So for the first 2 weeks that I was in general population, I had this Asian guy as a celly. He was super cool. He was about to get out. He was on some minor shit, and he's trying to encourage me that everything is going to be good. Don't worry. Your girl's got your back. You guys are going to work this out. Everything's going to be fine. So we basically sit in the cell. We play a lot of cards. My books came. I was reading Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles at the time, because I wanted something that was really lengthy that I could just pour myself into. There's like 16 books in the series, so I start reading the Vampire Chronicles. And I'm basically just trying to get through this experience. During that period of time, there was a couple other court hearings, and one of the hearings that we had was an evidentiary hearing where they wanted to admit the evidence that I gave to the police officer in the back of the car. And so this goes back to what I was saying in the first video about do not talk to the cops really ever, certainly after you have been Mirandized. And so when you go to court, they get you out of your cell, they take you down an elevator into a holding area. This happens every time you go to court. They shackle you, they put a chain around your waist, and they shackle your hands to the front of your chain, and they shackle your ankles together. And then you're in a line of everybody else that's going to court that day, and there could be 30 of you, and so it's called the chain gang. And you're all then connected to each other, and you walk single file through a series of doors into a tunnel that's like 1/4 of a mile long that runs under the ground, and it connects the jail to the courthouse. So you shuffle in your fucking shackles through this tunnel. You come up into an elevator and then out into the courtroom or to the courthouse where all the civilians are, and they're looking at you like you're a scumbag piece of shit. So it's incredibly, incredibly embarrassing. And I remember I got off the elevator, and like I was thinking to myself, like, this is going to be so humiliating. There's going to be all these people looking at me and judging me, and I don't belong here, and I didn't do anything wrong. And I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I thought this. But the thought that popped into my mind was, dude, none of these people know why you're in these shackles. Like, they think you're a fucking piece of shit. And so when I got off that fucking chain, when I got off that elevator and people started looking at me, I was just fucking mean mugging the shit out of them. Like, you know what? Fucking let these people think I'm a murderer. You're not gonna make me feel insecure. Fuck you. And so they're just like, nobody wants to look because I'm just fucking looking crazy at these fucking people. And so it was like, that was like a little bit of my power I could take back. You know, they put me into this place where they've humiliated me, they've strip searched me, they've looked inside my orifices, now they've chained me up like a fucking common criminal, and they've led me through a cellar into this fucking, the bowels of this dungeon, and now they're parading me around in front of civilians who think they're gonna fucking stand in judgment of me. And it was just like, in that moment, I just took what little dignity I could have back and just was like, yeah, fuck you. I might be a mass murderer this year. You better look the fuck away. And so that's what I did. And so then you go to court all chained together, and you have to sit there while everybody's case is read and all of the adjudication takes place for all of the cases of the people that you're on the chain with. And so that's how the pedophiles can get uncovered. So they read all of this stuff out loud in court. And so, you know, you're sitting there and then they read, you know, Johnny fucking Joe Blow over here has been charged with 2 counts of child sexual endangerment. And it's like, what, motherfucker? And then you could feel the fucking tension in the room change, and everybody on the chain's looking at this guy, and he's melting into his seat. And you know, the second he gets back to the unit, boop, I need to go to protective custody. I've been exposed. So luckily, again, I didn't have to worry about that. And in this particular hearing, what they were determining was whether what I told the police in the car was admissible. So I start panicking, and I'm like asking my attorney, like, what are we gonna do here? And he goes, you know what, we're gonna let it in. He said, because I'm not gonna fight it. Everything that you told the police officer the night of your arrest is exactly what you're planning on testifying to in court. And so that looks good for you, that the statement that you made the night of is the same statement that you're making, you know, some months later. And so your story is cohesive, and if her story starts changing from one day to the next, then that will be very strong for our case. So we're not going to fight it. We're going to let in everything that you said in the cop car. So that's what I was alluding to in that first video, where I got lucky. You know, you should not talk to the police, but because I did, I actually established a narrative that would connect the beginning to the end, and it gave me more credibility than I might have had otherwise. And so that worked out in my favor. And so then after that, like, I don't know how much I want to go into the 7-month period, because there's like a ton of stories, crazy fucking stories I could tell you about all of the different cellmates that I had and the crazy shit that they did. But rest assured that at the end of the first 2-week period, the guy that I've been living with, who was super cool, we'd become friends. It was one of the first really heart-wrenching moments, because suddenly he's leaving. And so he's getting cut loose to go home. And so you're losing like this only friend that you've made, and you're having to watch somebody else walk free out of this facility. And you don't know if you're ever going to walk free out of this facility. Like, you may literally be going from this facility straight to a prison that you may never get out of. So you're watching this person go home to their friends and family, not knowing if that is ever going to be your fate. And that was one of the most fucking depressing things I had ever been through. Like, watching that guy walk out of that unit and realizing, like, it just brought everything home. Like, dude, you're in a lot of fucking trouble right now. And so, yeah. So, anyway, let me stop this video here and take a break and see how long this thing's running, and then I'll come back and talk some more about all of the impending court experiences that led up to the eventual trial.